It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Every day can bring changes, challenges, and opportunities that can also change your personal or business financial goals and priorities. As a true partner, Sandy Spring Bank can make it all a bit easier. Someone who really listens, understands, and then creates solutions in hard times and good times. We'll always strive to be your advocate, today and every day. That's real banking for real life and real business. Visit sandyspringbank.com/real. Member FDIC.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey Blue Jackets fans, happy Saturday. This is Locked On Blue Jackets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster. Today's episode was going to be about one of the newest Blue Jackets, Sean Kuraly, but instead I'm pushing that to Monday because of some scheduling things, and so today we're going to touch on a different brand new Blue Jacket who just signed a one-year contract extension with us, Mikko Lehtonen, who we got from Toronto in the Väinö-Väväläinen trade. And we're also going to check in on the rest of the Metropolitan Division, because some of them have made some really good moves and gotten a lot stronger. Some of them have made some pretty damn questionable moves, and some of them have made no moves at all. So we'll start off with Mikko Lehtonen, who played in a couple of games last season. Like I said, we traded for him for goaltender Väinö-Väväläinen, who has now left the NHL and is in Finland, I believe. He has gone back to Europe anyway, but we kept Lehtonen. We re-signed him to a one-year contract. He was a UFA, I believe. He had not a terrible season. It was his first season in the NHL. He signed as a free agent with Toronto May 2020. He played 9 games for Toronto, had 3 assists. Played 17 games for us, had another 3 assists. So maybe not, startling numbers by any means, but definitely someone that can maybe grow and develop and just add another layer of depth to the blue line, since it was since the departure of Jones, Murray, Nudavara, Del Zotto, Savard. It'll be good to have a little bit of consistency and have, I think, more than 2 returning defensemen next season. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him challenge for that bottom pairing, or maybe the 7th defenseman. I assume Scott Harrington is going to be our 7th defenseman again, because that seems like that's just his job now. But yeah, I don't hate this signing. I believe it's a 1-year, 2-way contract, which again, maybe he spends some time in the minors to kind of develop a little bit more, to finish baking, I guess. No, it is a 1-year, 1-way contract. I was incorrect. League minimum, just about $900,000. Very much feels like kind of a show-me depth contract signing. Not mad about it. In the grand scheme of things, it's fine. So let's talk about the rest of the Metropolitan Division, and let's start with the only team that we played last season. Let's talk Carolina, who have been making some choices recently. They traded Calder nominee Alex Nedeljkovic to Detroit for basically nothing, a 3rd pick and the rights to Jonathan Bernier. Bernier turned around and signed in New Jersey, who we'll talk about in a minute. They lost Dougie Hamilton. They lost Warren Fogley. They lost Petr Mrazek. They have shipped out a bunch of people. They lost Jake Bean to us. We traded a second-round pick for him, the second-round pick that we got in the Seth Jones trade. And then they turned around and they signed Tony D'Angelo, who, I'm not going to lie, I don't really get it. I don't understand the choice. I could talk for a long time about Tony D'Angelo and why he shouldn't be getting an NHL contract, but the fact of the matter is that Carolina signed him to a contract, and apparently they're standing by it. And I lost quite a lot of respect for this team and this group when that happened. Apparently everyone is on board. They talk to all the leadership, so Stahl, Slavin, I believe, are the only two that's left. They were both fine with it, so, I mean, at this point, I'm like, okay, you've made your bed, now you can just kind of exist in it. They picked up Ethan Bear on defense, they picked up Brendan Smith on defense, they signed Freddie Anderson as one of their goalies. I believe they signed another goalie at the same time in free agency. They signed Antti Ranta. So this Carolina Hurricanes team is going to be very different to the Hurricanes team that we played this season. I think they're going to be much weaker. They are weaker in net. They are weaker on defense, obviously losing Dougie Hamilton, losing a bunch of other guys as well. I mean, they picked up some decent people. I don't think they have replaced players the caliber of Nedeljkovic and Hamilton, though. So it's going to be interesting to see that team. I believe they still have to sign Andrei Svechnikov before the end of the season, before the end of the off season. So we'll see how that goes as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to play that team. I think they're going to be much weaker and therefore much more fun to play against. So in a minute, I will talk a little bit more about the Metropolitan Division, but first I've got to tell you about Built Bar, because it is delicious, it is nutritious, you all know it by now. I'm not saying anything new to you here, but Built Bar's got 10 delicious flavours. They've got double chocolate, they've got strawberry, they've got coconut, they've got raspberry. If you have a favourite thing, Built Bar probably does a flavour for it. They have a bunch of limited flavors. Most recently, they've done Grasshopper Cookie, which is like a mint cream base with pieces of the Thin Mint cookie in it. They do Toffee Almond. They did a Lemon Almond Cheesecake, which is one of my personal favorites. You know, I feel like every day they've got a different limited edition flavor to try. So if you haven't tried them yet, then make sure you get on that. If you haven't tried the regular flavors, you can also get a mix box, which is basically where you'll get 2 each of all of the regular flavors, and so you can go from there, pick a favorite. My favorite from the regular flavors is mint brownie. That mint chocolate combination is just real good. And if you order today, go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, that is LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your first order. Once again, that is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com.
I'm Kevin Ostreicher, host of the Locked On Ravens podcast, and attention shoppers, we now have taste in the bread aisle, Dave's Killer Bread. That's right, an organic bread that doesn't need 3 spoonfuls of sriracha jam to delight your taste buds. Dave's Killer Bread is a 21-grain salute to the end of boring bread. A brand on a mission to make the most of every loaf, to rid the world of GMOs and artificial ingredients, and plant the seeds of good in all that they bake. But Dave's Killer Bread has done more than raise the bar on bread. In fact, Dave's Killer Bread was built on the belief that second chances can change lives when its founder Dave, the guy with a guitar you see on every loaf, returned to the family bakery after 15 years in prison. Dave took that chance and ended up creating what would become the country's #1 organic bread, while never forgetting his not-so-easy path. That's why at Dave's Killer Bread, they proudly practice second chance employment, hiring the best person for the job, regardless of criminal background. And by the taste of it, things have worked out rather well. Dave's Killer Bread, bread amplified.
So let's talk our old nemesis, the Pittsburgh Penguins, who I feel like they never make these big splashes in free agency. They've mostly picked up depth pieces to kind of surround the core because the core is still pretty darn good. They picked up Brock McGinn from Carolina. They picked up Dominic Simone. He spent a year with Calgary and now he's back. Basically a baby goalie to, I assume, play in Wilkes-Barre Scranton because the goalie depth in Pittsburgh is not good, shall we say. Basically, they had Jari last year. They had Smith last year. They had Maxime Lagacé, who played in one game and recorded a shutout in that game. He went to Tampa Bay, so they really only had Alex Durio at the AHL level. So they needed a goalie, so they picked up Lindbergh. The thing about Pittsburgh, I'm not worried. Well, I am a little bit worried about Pittsburgh, but they're essentially the same team that they were last season, so probably a playoff team, depending on whether or not they keep Tristan Jarry around. It'll probably be about as much fun to play them as it normally is, but they haven't really done anything that's made me think, oh wow, Pittsburgh's probably going to win the cup this year. So we can continue to think what we want of the Penguins. We'll stay in Pennsylvania, I guess. We'll look at the Flyers, who picked up... Flyers apparently decided that they were going to make one really good trade, and then one really bad trade, and then one really good trade, and then one really bad trade. Like, for the Flyers, I think I've had the most confusing free agency for me, because on the one hand, they shipped off Shane Gostisbehere to Arizona, basically paying a couple of picks to get Arizona to take that contract. And then, they traded for Ryan Ellis. They traded Phil Myers and Nolan Patrick. Nolan Patrick would go on to go to Vegas for Cody Glass. But I think, all things considered, the Ellis trade was a pretty good trade, unlike the Gostisbehere trade, which was kind of just confusing. Then they turn around and they trade for Rasmus Ristolainen on purpose, which is a choice. And not only that, they paid a third-round pick and a defenseman for him. So I don't know there. And then obviously, we haven't talked about in any great detail on the show yet, but the Jacob Voracek for Cam Atkinson trade, I think, was a really good one for Philadelphia. I think it was probably a pretty good one for both teams. I kind of, having had time to sit down and think and react to it rationally instead of being sad that they traded Cam Atkinson, I think it's good for both teams. And I hope that Atkinson does really well in Philadelphia, except for against us. I'm not looking forward to having to play him 5 times next season. That's going to be not fun for me emotionally or the team as a whole, I don't think. But yeah, Flyers, just an incredibly confusing team this free agency. For every good deal, it felt like there was an equally bad deal, and I don't know what Chuck Fletcher is doing at any given moment in time, really. We'll go up to New York next. We'll look at the 3 teams there. Yes, New Jersey is basically in New York. You can at me if you want, I don't care. We'll talk really quickly about the Islanders, who have not signed anyone in free agency. I believe they're the only team that hasn't signed anyone yet. St. Louis was the second last. They're kind of talking with a handful of people. They were trying to keep Kyle Palmieri and Casey Cizikas, who were both UFAs. They were talking about signing Zach Parise. A lot of talk and not a lot of kind of really doing much, which, I mean, I feel like GM of the Year Lou Lamoriello is doing what Lou Lamoriello does best. There's not a lot to talk about with the Islanders because they haven't done anything. They'll be the same, very boring, extremely hard to play against team that they were last season, and the season before that, and the season before that, etc., except now they don't have Nick Leddy and they don't have Jordan Eberle, so we'll see if they get any better, or any more fun to play against, missing those 2 players. In a minute, we'll keep going with our roundup of the Metro, but first, I've got to tell you about Bet Online. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your sports action. Baseball season is in full swing, and you can track all the action at Bet Online. Get all the latest news, odds, and info for all your sporting needs, including MLB, NBA, NHL, and all of your UFC, MMA action. They've even got the Olympics on there, which is pretty cool. So before the next pitch, head over to BetOnline on your laptop or mobile device. Check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore. This is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for their runs to the playoffs. Head to the website, use your mobile device to sign up today, and you'll get 50% off. You will get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. If you use promo code LOCKEDON, that means if you give them $100, they will put $50 into your account on top of that. If you pay $200, they will put $100 into your account on top of that. It's that easy. Once again, that's promo code LOCKEDON, all one word, at betonline.ag. BetOnline, your online sportbook experts.
This episode is brought to you by HP. Whenever you do your best thinking, the HP Spectre X360 is ready when inspiration strikes. With power save for battery life and focus mode to multitask, you can do your best thinking whenever and wherever it happens. You can't always schedule when and where you might have a brilliant thought, whether it's in the morning or before bed, when you're at your computer or away from it. Thinking can happen anywhere and anytime. The HP Spectre X360 2-in-1 convertible PC with Windows 10 saves battery life for whenever an idea hits you. HP Spectre X360, a more thoughtful laptop.
The Rangers as well have kind of done the same thing as the Penguins, except the thing about the Rangers is that they weren't as good as the Penguins this season, so I don't really know why they haven't really been making any kind of big splashes. But again, mostly depth guys like Patrick Nemeth, guys like Greg McKegg, who I guess is still in the NHL, Jared Tenordi, who is very tall, and also yesterday, I believe, they decided to trade for Ryan Reeves, which I guess say that Tom Wilson is in your head without saying that Tom Wilson is in your head, is how that's going to go. It's such a transparent pickup. They have since re-signed him for almost $2 million for next season, for the season after next, which again, oh man, just making all kinds of choices, Rangers. This is not as bad as the D'Angelo signing for Carolina, because at least Ryan Reeves, is not a raging white supremacist, but it's also just an incredibly stupid hockey move, and it's, I don't know, it's gonna be exactly like that game last season where there was 6 fighting majors in the first 4 minutes, and someone's going to get hurt, someone's going to get suspended, but that's how the NHL wants to conduct their business, I guess, so they can do that if they want. The New Jersey Devils, I think, are probably the team that has made the best free agent signings so far. As I mentioned earlier, they went and they got Dougie Hamilton, they got Jonathan Bernier. I mean, they haven't really done a lot other than those 2 signings, but I feel like the Dougie Hamilton was one of the better signings of the free agency period, despite that dude on Sportsnet that was like, wow, this Zach Hyman contract is the best contract that's ever been done in free agency because of, I don't know, intangibles and heart, and they think that he's going to be a 30-goal scorer on the Oilers, which is completely beside the point. New Jersey is a much stronger team. They've got one of the better defense teams in the Metro Division at the minute, I think, with picking up Ryan Graves from Colorado. They shipped off Will Butcher. The future is looking bright for the Devils in their defense. They've got some pretty good forwards. It's gonna be interesting to play them again because we haven't played them in a while. So who knows what that will bring. And our final team is the Washington Capitals. So again, they didn't really do a whole lot. Technically, they got Alex Ovechkin. They re-signed him. He was a pending UFA. I don't think anyone thought he was going to go anywhere else. But he's getting, I think, $9.5 million for the next 5 years. Which, yep, that makes sense for them. They have not really picked up much of anything else. They did receive Vitek Vanacek back from Seattle, who picked him in the expansion draft, and then when they signed Grubauer, just kind of traded Vanacek back for a pick, which means that the Caps have their goalie tandem back, and again, I expect them to be much the same team that they were this season. They haven't really lost anyone or gained anyone. We'll keep an eye on that. They might decide to make a trade, try and make themselves a little bit stronger, because I feel like they didn't have the best showing in the playoffs this season, and with that Ovechkin contract, I wonder if they're going to try and go for one more cup before they have to kind of cut loose and retool around him while he's still only, 33? So that's the Metro division. Again, I was talking about it yesterday. Somebody made a J-Fresh Hockey has a prediction simulator that he runs all his stuff through, and that projected us to finish at bottom of the Metro by a significant amount. I think 4th last in the entire league. But honestly, looking at some of the decisions that these teams are making, like some of the decisions that Carolina's made, some of the decisions that the Rangers have made, I don't know. Philadelphia might be good this season. They might be horrible. Who knows? It's so hard to tell with Philadelphia. I feel like it could really go either way. But I don't know. I think the Blue Jackets are probably going to be better than people think, but I don't necessarily think they'll be a playoff team. So we'll see. If anything, they might do the thing that they normally do, which is start off pretty strong and then slowly drop down and then squeak into the playoffs on the 7th or 8th seed, or they'll just hang out at the bottom of the division all season. Those are my two most likely predictions for the Blue Jackets this season. So that's all I've got for you today. On Monday, I will have some inside stuff on Sean Corrali. I've got a On Monday, I will have the inside scoop on Sean Corrali from Jesper Musto, who's joining us from, she's joining us from Locked On Flames, but she is a born and bred Boston Bruins fan, so that should be fun. We'll also hopefully be talking to Rachel or Danielle of Locked On Flyers about Jacob Voracek and getting that sorted, get some kind of inside scouting on a guy that last played for us 8 years ago, and we'll start to look at the draft, and we'll look at our 3 first-round picks and see kind of if we picked them in the right places, what might happen next season with them, and things of that nature. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and until Monday, make sure you stay locked on.
This episode is brought to you by Spotify Green Room. Have you ever listened to a podcast like this one and you wanted to bring up your own point or just chat with other people that are listening at the same time? Well, let me tell you about Spotify Green Room. This is the first social audio platform made just for sports fans. The app is free to download, and once you're in, you can talk with us, other fans, athletes, insiders in real time about your favorite sport or team. Download the app, currently available on iOS devices. Create a profile, link your Twitter, join one of the groups for the latest league updates, and then you'll see us there. Spotify Green Room, changing the way we talk sports.